Hi guys, and welcome to another batch of mini reviews. If you don't know, this is where I basically review 7 films in the time that it would normally take me to review just one. Unfortunately, I can't give full reviews for every film that I watch because I simply watch too many, so I created this series as a way to get around that. I think we've got mostly horror films today, although a couple of thrillers have sneaked into the lineup. I'm going to take these in the exact order in which I watched them, and if you hear any bangs in the background, don't worry, I'm not recording from a war zone this evening. It just so happens to be November the 1st at the time of filming, and I think my local neighbourhood seems to have decided to make this the de facto Guy Fawkes evening, given the fact that it's the weekend, but hopefully it won't ruin the video too much. Right, no further ado is required, so let's dive in and we'll start with this one. Live Animals is basically a bit of modern day torture porn light. So a bunch of people get kidnapped and locked up in a horse stables, but all the horses have been removed to make way for the human captives. And these people are eventually going to be sold to sex slavers in Europe. It's not all women, some men as well. But we spend basically the entire movie in this one location as we're waiting for the mysterious buyers to show up. So occasionally we'll see somebody being tortured or killed. We'll hear a lot of screaming and the sounds of people crying because they just can't believe this is happening to them. The occasional escape attempt may happen. The villains are pretty one-dimensional. They are all absolutely horrible pieces of shit. None of them have any redeemable qualities. None of them have any guilt at all about what they are doing. And I wasn't massively engaged in this film, to be honest. The only reason why it's not winning the Stinker of the Week award is because there are a couple of late-game twists that sort of give the film a little bit of merit, I suppose, but I still can't honestly recommend this one. I've seen countless movies that have done similar things and done them a lot better, so I'm only going to give this 1.5 out of 5. This is more like it, a bit of Liam Neeson. So this is actually a sequel. So the original Ice Road was about this truck driver who had to drive all the way across the Alaskan flats, but it was really dangerous because the truck could have gone through the ice at any moment on this perilous journey. So it was kind of like a man against nature type of film, but it was very tense. There was technically a villain in the film, but mainly the main threat was from the ice. Well, in the sequel, this same character, he goes to Nepal for personal reasons, and he gets involved in this situation because this local crime family want to buy the land near Everest, but the locals don't want to sell. So now the villains are going to play a little bit dirty and start killing off the main people who are getting in their way. So Neeson gets involved. And next thing, he's driving this busload of people up into the mountains away from the villains. They're giving chase. They've got automatic weapons and they're not messing around. But it's Liam Neeson. We know he's going to win the day. But it's so exciting, this film, because he's driving this bus around high up in these mountains. And the bus is always right next to a precipice. Like, it could go off at any moment. The ground is icy, just like in the first film somehow. And the villains are never far behind. If Tom Cruise had done this movie instead of Neeson, I don't think that would have looked completely wrong, because it's genuinely a death-defying type of film and better than the original. And the original film was also a decent watch. So I really liked this. The only reason I'm not giving this Film of the Week is because there are a few fight scenes here and there that look a bit dodgy. It feels like the villains have the upper hand sometimes and they don't finish Neeson off because they're just stupid, or they don't finish off one of his buddies again because they're stupid. But apart from that, this was a really good time for me. I really liked it. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. And if they want to go and make an Ice Road 3, go for it, because this is turning into a cool little series. Although they probably won't make another one at this stage, I think. The age that Neeson is at, I think he's surely got to stop doing these sorts of movies very soon. Next up, we have Zombie Flesh Eaters. Now, if you're into your horror, you will probably know that this is a very well-known Italian zombie movie done by a very famous director. But I don't really get along that well with Lucio Fulci's movies, and this one's no exception. It's the look of the zombies that I'm not massively keen on. I can appreciate that lots of effort has gone into them, but when I compare to, say, Romero's zombies, where he probably doesn't put as much effort into them, and yet to my eye they still look better. I think it's just a taste thing, to be honest, but I just don't look at the zombies in this film and particularly enjoy the style of them. It's just one of those things. I know other people probably really love this film, and that's fine. The first half of it is a bit slow, but there's lots of pretty decent action in the second half. There's a crazy scene with a shark and a zombie. Never seen anything like it in my life. And there's also a famous kill involving an eyeball, which I had seen before, bizarrely, even though I hadn't seen the movie it was from. I think I saw that particular kill in a documentary once. I'm going to give this 3 out of 5. I can appreciate the fact that it's good, but I couldn't shake off this feeling all the way through the film that it's just not for me, and this director, in all honesty, is just not for me either. Next up, we have Inbreds. So this is about a group of people who travel from Milton Keynes in England up to Yorkshire for a holiday. So it's a couple of social workers and a bunch of tearaway teenagers who are in their care, and I guess they want to take them up to the Dales to just help with their general mental health for a few days, possibly get them back on the straight and narrow. But once they get up there, they run afoul of these Yorkshire inbreds. Now, I do have a little bit of a problem with the depiction of Yorkshire people in this. I'm not a Yorkshireman myself, but I have spent a lot of time in the county, and I can tell you that the people there are just not like this. If we go by this film, everyone in Yorkshire is this buck-toothed idiot with an IQ of about 65, and it's just not like that. I'd be really interested to hear the opinion of a genuine Yorkshireman on this movie. But we get the usual good versus evil thing, you know, the good guys running around like headless chickens, nobody's got a phone signal, there's not a copper in sight anywhere. Oh, and another thing, at one point somebody claims that the nearest hospital is more than an hour away. I don't think that's geographically possible in Yorkshire. I mean, it's rural, but it's not that rural, I don't think. This film has a bit of a change of pace in the last half an hour. It's really serious to a point, and then it just becomes this splattery black comedy very late on. At one point, there's only 3 villains, and you think that's it, and then in the later stages, all these other villains from the local village suddenly spring up. They start spawning from everywhere. It's like the horror version of Command and Conquer, and next thing we've got like shotguns blowing heads off and trucks knocking people over and making people go splat. There's lots of blood and carnage candy at the end of this film, but I spent most of it kind of smiling ruefully as if I didn't really understand why I put it on in the first place. But it's not a terrible film. I think there are other people who will really enjoy this if it's their thing, but it's just not mine, sadly. But I will give it a respectable 2.5 out of 5. The Night Train Murders is a 70s movie about a duo of female friends who are travelling by train from Germany to Austria, I think. It's going to take them all day, this journey. And it's going okay at first, but then they have to change trains onto this much quieter train, and they end up getting chased by some villains, and it kind of goes on from there. My opinion of this movie, my enjoyment of it, went through some very distinct stages. So in the beginning, I was really liking it. I liked the use of real-world locations. The 2 girls seemed like really good characters. I like trains in general, which helps. So yeah, I was really optimistic for this one. And then we get to the middle portion when the horror starts, and it all gets a little bit like Last House on the Left, but on a train. And I must credit my friend Adrian Smith for spotting this comparison, but I absolutely agree with him. It does get a little bit like that, which is not my usual style of horror. And my brain was just kind of starting to drift away from this movie when we got to the third act, where the film goes in some unexpected directions and actually kind of rescues itself a little bit. So I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5. I do think it's worth a watch, but it just depends whether this is your sort of movie. But certainly from where I was in the beginning, where I was really liking what I was seeing, I think this really could have been better than it ended up. This is not to be confused with a very similarly titled Johnny Depp movie. This is actually about Ted Bundy. Now, I'm not massively familiar with this guy's exploits, other than the fact that he killed a lot of people. This movie is focused on one particular crime spree that Bundy went on, where he essentially butchered a load of girls in a sorority house, which brought back memories for me of Black Christmas. But whereas that film is really terrifying because you just never know where the killer is in the house at any one moment, in The Black Mass, this film, we always know where Bundy is because we're watching the story through his eyes. Yeah, the entire movie here is from the point of view of the killer, so there's just no tension at all. And at one point, we go into this bar and there's like this Tarantino type setup where there are a few attempts at black humour where Bundy's interacting with a few women nearby and a couple of bouncers. And I guess that scene has a little bit of merit, but the main course of the meal, i.e. the stuff that happens in the dormitory, there's just no suspense because we always know where Bundy is and what he's up to. We don't really get to know any of the female characters that well. The murders are just nasty. On the whole, there's no creativity. I guess the makers of the movie wanted to keep things realistic. They wanted to ape the kills as they actually happened in real life, which is fair enough. But I just wasn't that interested in watching Bundy go about his business. If I wanted to learn about Ted Bundy, I could just go on his wiki, I guess, and read about everything he did. I certainly didn't need this subpar movie, so I'm only going to give this 1.5 out of 5, and it also wins the Stinker of the Week award. So ignore at all costs, basically. Finally, today we have The Woman in Cabin 10. I think that's what it's called. So this was the final film I watched for this video, and right at the last minute, this stole the Film of the Week award from Ice Road Vengeance. I really liked this. It stars Keira Knightley as a journalist. I've not seen this actress since the noughties, and I was kind of shocked to see how much she's aged since I last saw her. But she's really good here. She plays this woman who goes onto this billionaire's super yacht hoping to get a story. The owner of this boat is played by Guy Pearce. His wife is dying of some rare sort of cancer, so he's invited all these rich people onto this boat holiday to the Northern Lights so that he can persuade them to invest in research that might help cure his wife's cancer. So Keira Knightley's character, whose name I can't remember, she's kind of like the odd person in the pack, right? But it's not long before somebody is seen to be drowning off the side of the boat, and clearly there is skullduggery in the air. There's something going on here. Everything is not as it seems with this boat trip on the super yacht. And we kind of go on from there. This is one of those thriller films. It's a little bit like that Emily Blunt film, I guess, The Girl on the Train. It's even got a similar title, The Woman in Cabin 10. But Knightley is really good, and the mystery that unfolds is genuinely exciting. There's nothing in this film which is too unrealistic. It all plays out in a fairly believable sort of fashion, and I was genuinely on the edge of my seat following this entire affair. So I'm going to give this 4 out of 5. Genuinely recommended, so do check it out. And that brings me to the end of my video. So just to recap, The Woman in Cabin 10 is the best here, and I would say the worst is that Ted Bundy film, although Live Animals was pretty poor as well. So if you've seen any of these films today, do let me know what you think of them in the comments below, and I will see you all again next time. Bye bye.